So what would you do, David, if you knew that all of this stuff looks pretty good?
That's exactly where I would aim my scope. I would say we're only going to check the things we know that are good. And we'll leave everything else out of scope.
Yeah, close that closet door over there.
Yep. You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax. HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs and Security First IT. And joining me as always is Donna Grindle of Hardin. Hello, Donna.
Hey, David. It's so cool to see you right across the room.
I know. Just reach out and just slap you.
Yeah. That's why we're on the opposite sides of the room. So we can't do that.
It's probably safer that way for both of us. So we're together again live for the boot camp this weekend.
Yeah.
Even though I told everybody last week that it was a great conference.
Yeah. Yeah. But, so it's all about, timing.
So we're going to jump into a pretty interesting topic today. But before we do, where will you be coming up in 2019 so far?
Yeah, well, we're talking about stuff. We're working on stuff. We're still working out the final details, but I will be with the Society of OMS Administrators National Conference, which happens to be in the lovely city of Savannah, Georgia, April 7th through the 10th. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then, there's some other stuff, but schedules and timing and working on stuff. And then there's the boot camp confusion, which...
it's not confusing yet.
Well, it is if you try to hear us talking about it. But we were supposed to have a date, and we haven't had time yet. So next episode, look forward to the actual date. But there will be one in the first 6 months.
Yeah.
Between now and June, we will have another boot camp, at least one, maybe two.
If we're lucky.
Yeah. So know that that's coming. That's the only commitment we can make right now, but there's some interesting conversations we're having.
All right, folks, if you like today's podcast, which I'm sure you will, then make sure you share it out on your favorite social media or even social media you don't like. I don't really care. Just share it out.
Well, I heard a podcast that they said just tell one friend. Just tell one friend. And that's all we ask.
If you can
and they'll tell two people, and they'll tell two people.
There you go.
Yeah.
Friends don't let friends violate HIPAA. All right. Speaking of something similar to that. So recently we both were on a NIST OCR webcast security conference. That's a mouthful. And one of the panel members said that they absolutely cringe when they hear the words HIPAA compliant or HIPAA certified, which I absolutely agree. It makes me
it drives us insane.
But we always kind of poke fun at the HIPAA compliant, HIPAA certified. We poke fun at that a lot. But HIPAA compliant, we don't really get on that bandwagon. But her explanation of it kind of made me go, you know what? Maybe we should.
I know.
So, and it kind of talks to a little bit about what we're going to talk about today, which is how Anthem, during their settlement process and all that stuff, technically was HITRUST certified while the hacker had broken into their network.
Yes. And so that news came out like yesterday, today. I mean, this brand new stuff. And HITRUST immediately did a press release to clarify.
I bet they did.
Yeah, they did. So while they were HITRUST certified, it was not within the scope. So this is we've covered this when we talked about SOC 2 and how we have a lot of tech companies that would say, oh, you don't have to worry about our HIPAA compliance because we're SOC 2 certified. Here you go.
Right.
So since this has come up again and we haven't really talked about HITRUST, I thought we could go through discussing HIPAA certified, HIPAA compliant, HITRUST, SOC 2, what? What should you do? And who is it? And who is HITRUST?
I've even heard people say I'm PCI compliant, and therefore,
I know.
I got HIPAA covered.
Yeah, like, I have heard that too. Yeah. So basically, whatever you think you've gotten certified or whatever, doesn't matter what they tell you, it does not equal HIPAA compliance, period. And we're going to explain all of that stuff. That's the plan.
Even being HIPAA compliant doesn't mean
You're HIPAA compliant.
you're HIPAA compliant.
You know, is this application HIPAA compliant? It can be used in a HIPAA compliant manner.
Yeah, I just got on a tangent with that on Facebook the other day when somebody posted something about using, Office 365 makes you HIPAA compliant. And I was like, oh.
No.
Yes, let me explain, Lucy.
Explain, Lucy. It does not. So there's a lot of confusion about that. So let's just say anybody says you are definitely HIPAA compliant, or you're guaranteed HIPAA compliant, or you're certified HIPAA compliant, or anything along those lines, that does not mean that OCR can't settle with you for $16 million. Maybe you're lucky enough that it won't be $16 million, but it does not mean that you are actually compliant in any way, shape, or form according to OCR.
Right.
So, yay. Let's talk about that and try to do it in English.
I like looking at compliance kind of like a healthy program that you put your body on, whether it's lifting weights or going on a diet or whatever. It's kind of the same thing in that you can't just get up one day and go, okay, great. I've hit my, I'm healthy. I'm good. I can stop now. Because, you're going to quickly, lose everything that you've worked so hard to do. And it's the same way with HIPAA compliance. It's an ongoing process. It's not, hey, I got it done, and we'll revisit it again next year.
Yeah, mine is, I always like to think of it as a car.
Mm-hmm.
I maintain my car just like I need to maintain my HIPAA compliance. And I expect my car to keep me safe and to actually get me from point A and point B, which is what I expect HIPAA compliance to help me do with the data. Get it safely from point A to point B with no horrible things going on. And if there is an accident, I would like to live through it. There you go. Mine's more scary.
Yeah, you are more scary.
Hey. Fine. But the bottom line is, it is something that must be maintained. It is not a point in time that you get to. There's no actual thing that can point to that. And so that's why all of these certifications and so on and so forth really are problematic. So let's first talk about, yes, there was HITRUST certified at the time that it occurred. However, that doesn't mean anything as it as opposed to HIPAA compliance in the breach. So let's explain what that really means when we say it doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
Let's get with that.
Yeah, so HITRUST in and of itself is not a bad thing to get at all.
No, there's nothing wrong with having HITRUST certification. Mm-hmm. What's wrong is assuming that HITRUST certification means you're doing everything you're supposed to do for HIPAA.
Right, because of the scope of it, because they don't cover the same thing. That's pretty much the gist of all the certifications that are out there, is that they don't all cover the same scope of what HIPAA would look at. And therefore, you can have a certification like HITRUST or SOC, but still not cover some of the aspects of HIPAA.
Right. So so here we go. First of all, HITRUST the HITRUST Alliance is an organization. They say they're not for profit, formed in 2007. They have an executive council. Members are the ones that formed it. Now, right away, it makes people feel suspect when you list the executive council of the people that formed it, and the first name on the list is Anthem. Okay. And then Express Scripts, Healthcare Service Corporation, Highmark, Hospital Corporation of America, Humana, IMS Health, Kaiser Permanente, McKesson Corporation, United Health Group. That is the original executive council who put this together to try to say, look, we're going to create this big picture because everybody's got to do SOC, and some people want PCI, some people want SOC, some people want ISO, others want NIST, and then of course there's HIPAA. So we're going to dump them all together and try to align them and normalize them.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. That's a programmer's term, database manager term, third normal form. Okay, but we won't go down that.
So
route.
Anthem got certified for their own certification.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what we got. Okay.
Yeah, but see that's what makes people suspect. And by the way, it was called WellPoint at the time that the certification took place, and it was like 5 months after they made the big announcement that they're certified. Is that there's the hacker broke in that we talked about in when we did the details in the last episode. So clearly, it still does not mean because you're HITRUST certified, you will not have the largest breach in healthcare history with the largest settlement in healthcare history.
Mm-hmm.
But the way HITRUST works is, and part of the reason that it's mostly assumed to be for-profit, and I personally just assume that they're for-profit because...
Yeah, how much it costs.
Yeah, there's a lot of overhead that they put into here, and they have a huge board, and you know how businesses work. So anyway, they guesstimate that to get to the certification level, I suppose, even if you're on the executive council, it still costs you money.
That's a big assumption.
And we know about assume. But they say that you should expect somewhere between $40,000 and $60,000 to get there. And it could vary and be even more depending on the size or type of organization. And in comparison, SOC 2 still costs around $30,000. So these things aren't cheap to get.
Mm-hmm.
But HITRUST takes way more than SOC does because it's trying to apply so many other things. But the steps you go through, what? Have you ever studied the steps? Have we ever talked about the steps? Okay, so here's what you go. You go to their website, and you can download for free as long as you agree to their license agreement, which is very specific, and you should read it, depending on what you're going to do with it. But that is their framework, and you get the specifications of what you're supposed to do, similar to any other framework, but it's got all these others built into it. So you go get it, and you're supposed to go through all of that, figure out how you're going to do it, can you account for it, blah, blah, blah. But then the next thing you do, because that does not in any way impact your just having the framework and knowing about it, obviously there's more steps. So the next step is that you are self-assessed. I'm going to complete a self-assessment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now my choice in a self-assessment, because obviously I want to check myself, check yourself.
Check yourself.
First. I want to know how bad it's going to be before I let anybody else look. Okay, but in order to do that, I have to go and I have to buy an assessment report.
Okay.
From HITRUST.
Here we go.
Right. So I buy an assessment report from HITRUST.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I have the option to subscribe to their tool that helps you manage all this compliance called MyCSF.
Okay.
And CSF for them means Common Security Framework.
Oh.
Not cybersecurity framework like we talk about with NIST, which now they're trying to call it just the framework, and it's all going to get confused. But, so I buy that, and I can choose to subscribe to MyCSF, or I can just get the 90 days to go in and do my assessment report, generate my report. And then somebody there confirms you've completed the report, and you are self-obsessed, self-assessed. So then you're done there. And then you just keep working on that until you're feeling kind of good about it. Because you really want to feel good about it, because next time you're going to spend more money.
Mm-hmm.
And the next time you're going to get validated. And you do the same process. You can sign up for MyCSF, but you're still going to pay for an assessment report. But now I'm going to pay for a certified CSF assessor to validate my findings. And those folks aren't cheap. Those assessors are pretty pricey because it costs them a boatload of money to become a certified CSF assessor. That's not cheap either. Then, once you're validated, if you score well enough, and there's literally scores, but it's like +3, -2, 4, it's funky how it works. But once you feel like you're brave enough to try, then you buy another assessment. So you're buying at least 3. And often you buy more than one self-assessment to get ready for the validated one, and then sometimes you have to have multiple validated ones to get to the part that you can be certified.
Wow.
Then you buy another report and you hire an assessor to come do the assessment for you, essentially. They're going to do what you've been doing on your own and what you've had validated. And so now I've paid for all of those, and I've paid the big bucks for the assessors, and now I can say I'm HITRUST. I can say I'm HITRUST validated or I'm HITRUST certified. Those mean two different things, obviously, but that's what it takes. Now, the trick, though, is that for this and SOC and all of them, I get to define my scope.
Okay. This is where the difference is.
That's right. And you always like your firearm analogies. And I grew up, with a 30-06 and a scope on it. Is how we could see who's on the other side of that field. But when you look at the scope and you think about a firearm scope, if you ever look through those or a telescope or whatever, you're only going to see what's in that field of vision, what you're looking at that time. So if you're aimed at one part of the sky, even the Hubble telescope cannot see the whole sky at the same time, the whole universe. Not the sky, I guess. It's the Hubble because it's already in the sky, but nerdiness. Phase 2. But that field of vision is what the scope is. So what would you do, David, if you knew that all of this stuff looks pretty good?
That's exactly where I would aim my scope. I would say we're only going to check the things we know that are good. And we'll leave everything else out of scope.
Yeah, close that closet door over there.
Yep.
Yeah, I would definitely, and that's what everybody does.
You can look at anything I have as long as it's right here.
Just aim right here. Yeah, look right at this area. Look right at the camera. But that's the whole trick with how these work, and that's why HITRUST came out and said, look, yeah, they were HITRUST certified, but where the problems happened, how they got in, what occurred, that wasn't under our scope of certification. Mm-hmm. So HITRUST is absolutely right. Don't be blaming us. You didn't put that under, so it's just like but you didn't check this box.
You told us not to look in that closet.
Yeah. So, they're not wrong. The question is, if they're not wrong and it's so expensive to have it and people spend all that money and aim the scope only at the things they want you to know about, not the things they don't want you to know about, how do you treat these when you're looking at them? How do you know what that means? So when somebody says, we're HITRUST certified, we're SOC 2, the first thing you should say is,
let me see your scope.
I just want the scope. Just the scope. Let me see it. What are you aimed at? And then there's I don't remember the phrase that they use, but they also have here's your to-do list. Mm-hmm. Because you're never perfect. You're always going to have essentially a risk management plan that comes out of these assessments, just like anything else.
Right.
So, I want to look at that too, or at least get a summary of it. And I think now they have they're calling it SOC 3, which is basically like a public-facing version of your SOC 2 report, so you can hand it out. But I wonder if the scope's in it. I haven't looked.
I don't know. I would be asking for it.
Put that on your to-do list, David.
I got it. It's on the bottom. It's number 843.
Yeah, really. It's in the top 50. I'm feeling good. It might happen next year. So no doubt about it, HITRUST certification did not impact the particular breach that occurred because it was not HITRUST certified. The entire organization is not certified. So when we look at it and we say HIPAA certification is not a thing, we're worried about HIPAA here, not frameworks.
Right.
So it's not a thing. It's just
no such thing.
No. I mean, it's nice to know. And yeah, SOC 2 and HITRUST, they're nice to know, and you can evaluate the scope, and maybe it is enough. But without evaluating the scope, and understanding what the auditors told them to do after the fact, not very helpful.
Right.
And, people call, I want you to help me get my such and such app to be HIPAA compliant. Well, no.
No such thing.
I can't do that. I will not do that. So, to be clear, and I can't tell you the number of times I've had to send this link to people.
Mm-hmm.
That is the OCR statement about HIPAA certification. And it's in their FAQs, their facts, that says, the question is, do I need to certify my organization? And their first part says, no, there is no standard or implementation specification that requires a covered entity to certify compliance. And that would also go for a business associate. You want to read the juicy part down at the bottom?
It is important to note that HHS does not endorse or otherwise recognize private organizations, quote unquote, certifications regarding the security rule, and such certifications do not absolve covered entities and business associates of their legal obligations under the security rule. Moreover, performance of a quote unquote certification by an external organization does not preclude HHS from subsequently finding a security violation.
Subsequently,
how about that?
Hey, look, you nail me when I miss one. I got to get it there. I was proud you got all those words.
Looking at
impressive. Here. But the bottom line is they're saying, we don't care.
Yeah.
We don't care.
You can be certified all you want, but that don't mean anything.
I know. I tell people all the time, look, I can take this whole room of people. I can make a HIPAA certified sticker and give it to every one of y'all.
Well, you bring up a good point because that's exactly what happens.
Mm-hmm.
There are organizations out there. I mean, even the organization I have, HIPAA for MSPs, we have a certification. Now, we obviously don't call it a HIPAA certification.
No.
But we do have a certification that says somebody went through this course, they understand the material, and they were able to regurgitate it into a test and pass this test. So they do get a certification. Unfortunately, though, there are those out there that say this is HIPAA certified or whatever. But besides that, there are a lot of organizations who do it kind of like what I'm doing, is they're saying that you receive this certification that goes along with a HIPAA course.
Mm-hmm.
So those things are out there, and they're valuable to the extent that they're valuable.
Yeah, but then there's others where you watch a 15-minute video, take a 4-question test, and then they say, you're certified.
Yeah, print your certification out.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah, it's right here. So that's why you have to say, by whom are you certified? Don't just take their word. I'm sorry, you go to a website and it says guaranteed HIPAA compliance.
Yeah.
Run like the wind. Or it says, I've actually seen some that say, HIPAA certified, and it'll put multiple years on it. And there's one place I saw where you would pay, I don't know, $50, $500. I don't know. You'd pay an annual fee. You would answer some questions, send those in, and within, a few minutes, they would send back, okay, looks good. Boom, you're HIPAA certified.
Right. So all you have to do is just be able to answer the questions properly,
Right.
not actually do the work.
Yeah, or prove anything, So it could just be, me and you deciding that we're HIPAA compliant. I'm on. No, move away from the keyboard. So even though there has been, a big, in the nerd world, there's quite an uproar over this HITRUST thing.
Right.
I don't think it's anything that you should get all worked up about. It's something you should be educated about, but that's what, you're here for, right? And if an organization says, I don't have to answer your questions because I'm PCI compliant, okay, that's wrong. And it's when they throw out HITRUST certification and SOC 2 certification, your answer to that can be, so was Anthem.
Yeah. And now it can.
Yeah. So was Anthem. Show me the money.
Right.
Because I don't think you can stroke a $16 million check. But if we had that scenario in place and people actually understood that there was no such thing as certification, do you think that more people would do proper assessments?
I would like to think that.
Yeah. So I think the big thing that we need to spread the word about is there's, HIPAA certification is not a real thing.
Yeah.
It's not a thing.
No.
It's not a thing. But in the same token, don't say HITRUST doesn't matter, SOC 2 doesn't matter. The SOC folks, that's the accounting people that do those, and they're coming out with one somehow blended with HIPAA. I don't know. But the bottom line is, if I only have you look at where I want you to look, then you will find that I'm doing the right thing because that's where I clean the house.
Right.
Me, I don't ever clean the house. What you see is what you get.
Yeah. No, they're all valuable. But you just need to understand how they're valuable and how they go along with HIPAA or not go along with HIPAA, with whether that's, HITRUST, SOC 2, or whether it's some other course you took, or whether you come to the boot camp.
I know. Everybody's like, well, when I come to the boot camp, am I going to get certified? No. No, you will not.
No, but you will get drowned.
We will give you a really super cool certification paper that says we certify you were here and that you took the course and this is what was in it. And, you can turn that in for CEUs or whatever, we'll certify that. But if I've laid eyes on you and watched you go, watch your eyes roll back in your head while we're teaching you HIPAA, I don't mind certifying that. But there's no way. I even have people still that will come to us and want us to give them a proposal to do an assessment, and then they expect that assessment will make them compliant. And it'll include all their policies and procedures.
Of course.
And they'll have all the paperwork they need. See you, bye.
Well, that's because there are companies out there, believe it or not, that are actually selling that, snake oil.
Yeah, there is that. And it varies not just with the assessment people, but there's IT companies that'll say, we guarantee you'll be HIPAA compliant if you use our services.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And they have no earthly idea what 90% of HIPAA regulations even about.
Well, if they actually understood HIPAA, they would never guarantee it.
Yep, this is true.
That's the bottom line. Is I can only give you so many disclaimers before you get tired of hearing my disclaimers. I know stuff and I'll share it with you and I'll do the work, but that doesn't guarantee anything. Just like they said, it does not preclude HHS from subsequently finding a security violation.
I like my horn better.
All right. Well, I think it's a short episode, but it's one that, I had to get it ready quickly because this news just came out, and I really thought it was important for us to talk about it again.
Right. Well, before we started, I certified it.
Okay, well, now we're done. It's almost like we can't complete an episode without him getting to the point of making one of those comments. So it's so much fun when I can see him and he's looking right at me. I'm about to say something stupid.
Now you know the look.
No, I do know the look.
All right, folks, that's our show for today. Please remember, follow us on social media, or if you're in Georgia, you can follow Donna around. Either way. Check back with us on the HIPAA boot camp dates. I guess the next show we're going to try to have it on that one.
We'll have to have it locked in by then.
Yeah. All right. So remember to share it out and all those other things that we say. So for Donna and myself, don't forget, HIPAA is not about compliance or certifications. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.